Thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making the headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers. And I begin with this Nigeria. The major story here says, insecurity. We will secure Nigeria, says National Security Advisor Ribadu. Tinubu meets service chiefs, insists on teamwork, says much needs to be done. Dialogue with repentant bandits, Yerima urges Tinubu. Find all the details on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper. And so the first newspaper, Ribadu opens up on Tinubu's meeting with service chiefs. Ribadu opens up on Tinubu's meeting with service chiefs. That's the story on the front page of the first newspaper. And still talking security on the front page of the Daily Sun, Tinubu talks tough on security challenge. Charges service chiefs to fix problem, demands synergy. Among them, NSA speaking, that's the National Security Advisor, speaking about what the meeting was about. To the Nigeria News Direct, still towing the line of security. War against insecurity, we will not fail. Security service chiefs speaking there. Results only, no room for excuses. President Tinubu made dialogue with bandits. Sani Yerima speaking. Deal with bandits according to the law, security experts are saying. Those are some riders with regards to the matter of the conversation the president had with the security chiefs yesterday. Kemi.
The Punch is next, and it's still on or following, just like the previous papers. Retired generals, it says, set agenda as President Tinubu meets service chiefs. And there is a quote from the National Security Advisor, Nuru Ribadu, saying criminal activities are going down. Tinubu picked best hands. That's on the Punch. It's a different lead story for Voice of Liberty, as we see now. Petrol price to crash as NNPCL and marketers fuel vessels set to arrive next week. Voice of Liberty there. The Nation is next, and Senate, it says, APC strikes deal for Bamidele, Ndume, and Umahi. Of course, the Senate reconvenes today, and key positions or more key positions will be the main business of the day. That's on The Nation. By the way, Blueprint is next, and it's talking about the jostle for principal offices heightening as Senate resumes today. Ndume Bamidele in fierce battle for Senate leadership position. Blueprint there. Business Day is leading with this report on Oronsaye report to test Tinubu's cost-cutting champions. That's the lead story on Business Day. On The Guardian, economy awaits Tinubu's fiscal direction as uncertainty trails forex liberalization. That's The Guardian. Let's see what leadership is leading with on its front page. Fake UTME result. Family alleges conspiracy as JAM bans candidate for 3 years. That's leadership there. Of course, it adds that the fake result detected by security device QR code, that's according to JAM, but Mesoma, the student in question, insists she didn't forge the result and is traumatized by the allegation. Anambra government begins probe. DSS keeps mum, and former Minister Ezekwesili is calling for a forensic inquiry. Finally, is Daily Trust. Renewed rice smuggling threatens local production with contraband flooding Lagos and other cities, while women, youth import through Benin and Niger republics. That's it for me.
Right. Look at this story that is on a majority of the papers this morning, talking about President Bola Tinubu meeting for the first time with service chiefs, as well as the National Security Advisor on the direction for security. But the major issue is that he says he wants results and that he wants synergy amongst the security chiefs in carrying out what they have to do with regards to addressing matters of insecurity in the country. And he told them that he is 100% in their support. He's supporting them 100%. And the service chiefs also thanked him for trusting and believing in them to carry on this responsibility. And they have promised to deliver as much as possible. And I know the NSA came out to speak with regards to the statements coming out of that meeting. And he spoke to the matter of the fact that there has been some level of, will I say, not much attacks in recent times, that we have seen some level of peace, so to speak. But there are those who would dispute that, because we saw what happened in Jos, Plateau State rather, where there was some attacks, I think last month, and a number of persons were attacked. And then we saw what happened also in Benue State, some level of attacks. Yes, we might say there are pockets here and there, but what Nigerians want is the fact that they can sleep with their eyes closed.
Indeed, and insecurity is, it has been a very big issue over the years, and it's not, we've learned our lessons. I want to believe that we've learned our lessons in the way we handle security. As much as it was a big deal, the Buhari administration that just ended rode high on that, and he was judged, so to speak, as he left, looking at how he met the country security-wise and how he left the country. So, and then coming on board now, the Tinubu administration also spoke about his plans for it during his renewed hope campaign, and now here we are. It's still a little too early to say that insecurity has reduced, or to rate the level of insecurity at the moment. Well, people will naturally speak about that, and it's also normal. It's also normal for the NSA to say that, but then I want to believe and I want to hope that he's being very circumspect, and let us just go with the fact that the president and every stakeholder, many stakeholders, and even among the takeaways in yesterday's meeting has been that all of them, all of these key leaders, cutting across the various security divisions in Nigeria, need to work together now more than ever before. And it was good to see that, it was a very wholesome, so to speak, gathering. Everybody was represented, including the police. And we want to hope that moving forward now, everybody has a common agenda. There is an ideal, there is a target. Kudos to the people that left, to the leaders that left, the service chiefs that left, after working for the country. But now a new administration is now in charge, and we want to see much better cohesiveness. We want to see more results. We want to see more welfare. We've been talking so much about welfare for the officers. We want to see higher morale. We want to see families of our fallen soldiers taken care of. We want to see that this insecurity, the government means it and is walking the talk now more than ever before.
Right. We have seen the agenda of the Inspector General of Police, where he came out to say that he is looking into community policing. He is also ensuring that his men, he's not going to entertain any form of indiscipline, so to speak, and then he's going to look at how to build that trust that Nigerians have on the police force, talking about the relationship with Nigerians, how it has been over the years. Is going to ensure that it gets better, so to speak. But so when Nigerians wait to see the agenda of other security agencies, how they intend to address this matter of insecurity, how they can harness everybody coming together with their agenda and seeing how they can marry that to get the result that the president is asking. He says he just wants results at the end of the day, because basically if this matter of insecurity is not addressed, we are looking at how do we then attract investments to the country. We are talking about attracting investors into the country. We have seen how the president has, taken certain steps with regards to the monetary policies and all of that. But much more has to be done to consolidate on the steps that he's taking, and that has to come from the aspect of security. If persons who are looking into the country are not seeing that whatever they bring on board might not reap the necessary fruits as a result of insecurity. They may not be looking in that direction. We recall that the UK was saying that they are waiting to see certain appointment that the president will make, how the direction of things will go before they can look in the aspect of making, consolidating on the relationship Nigeria has with them. So these are the areas, these are critical areas. So Nigerians will be waiting to see who handles the portfolio of the Defense Ministry, such that everyone is working together to achieve the purpose of the president has set in terms of his renewed hope agenda.
And we also want to see better relationships between the states and the federal government. In the past administration, if you look at Benue State, for instance, there were a lot of narratives, and we saw the then Benue governor, at loggerheads with the federal government.
Yeah.
There were a lot of conspiracy theories here and there. But we hope that moving forward now, states will work together, especially states that have major security challenges, will work together, especially the issue of the police and the army and, the other related bodies who they answer to. But then the state governor is the chief security officer of his immediate domain. So we hope that moving forward now, it's going to be beyond the security agencies. We want to see
the synergy,
more synergy, better
across
synergy.
Because
state governments are also coming up with one security agenda after the other. More outfits are springing up, but then we don't know. We want to see, everybody working together. If they need to be kitted, let them be kitted. Of course, there is so many narratives, so many agenda, constitutional and otherwise, to give these people more recognition and more legal backing. So we want to see more clarity in the coming days. And this issue of dialogue that we're also seeing it louder as this administration, continues, is whether the government should give dialogue a better or a more prominent place.
Dialogue with
in
whom?
its agenda, because in the papers there was an advice by Yerima,
former governor of Zamfara State,
with
yes.
will I say bandits
repentant
bandits now. But if you look at Katsina State, for example, now it remains like the test, or Zamfara State, for example, in the previous administration. How well did that work? How well did that window of reconciliation or whatever the government wanted to achieve at the time, can we assess it before we now decide whether it is indeed time to give that more prominence?
It's a challenging one with regards to this matter of dialogue, because what would constitute the framework? The persons that were attacked, or the persons who are victims of the activities of these bandits are in the society, and they are seeing who brought them to the state that they are or they found themselves now. How do we ensure closure for those ones? If you say you want to have a dialogue with repentant bandits, what will constitute that conversation? At the end of the day, how are you sure that they are truly repentant and that they will not return to what they say they have repented from? At the end of the day, what most persons are calling for is accountability, holding these people to account for their actions, because their actions is against the state. At the end of the day, how do you hold them to account? People do not trust the aspect of, you are saying, having dialogue with repentant bandits. What makes them repentant? Is it because they came out to say that we have repented? How do you judge their repentance at the end of the day? And the victims are seeing that these persons are seemingly treated in a certain way that they are not. We need to find a balance at the end of the day to ensure that we are not creating another thing that could break the peace, so to speak, of the society. Because if you are looking at the victims, how do we ensure closure for them? It's key. If you are looking at the repentant bandits, yes, you have repented, but what are you going to do to ensure that they do not return and that they genuinely repented? That process is what Nigerians are looking at. What would be the framework if we are saying we want to have a dialogue? What will constitute that dialogue? Are they going to make demands of government, or is government going to do something for them to ensure that they do not return to attacking, some of these communities like we have seen in previous years. So what would it constitute at the end of the day? It's critical. If we want to adopt something, we have to look at all sides, especially as it relates to the victims as well.
It would definitely be a relief, even though, of course, we have to admit that the security agencies over the time have also been looking at kinetic and non-kinetic measures to curb insurgency and other threats to our nationhood. We want to see that too. Of course, there's so many threats. The issue of kidnapping too. It would be a big relief to see those in captivity, no matter how long they've spent in captivity. Let them come out. Let them be released. Let them be found. And we can't talk enough about the Chibok girls and so many others who remain in captivity. So we want to see, more clarity, more successes. Soldiers and boots on the ground are working immensely hard, and it will be very cheering to see that, they are making results despite their hard work and sacrifices for the nation.
It's very important, and that aspect leads to the matter of their welfare. I think it is high time that the government looks into that aspect critically. Because there are those who have said that why there are fifth columnists in the system is as a result of they not having the necessary, they're not being taken care of as they should be. But then that is not making a case for them. I'm not trying to play the advocate, the devil's advocate here, that because you feel you are not well taken care of, you decide to be a fifth columnist, not ensuring that the efforts of government yield the needed results that Nigerians can see. But it will be critical that government boost the morale of these persons in such a way that they can give their all as they have decided, but then they would be dedicated to the service to the nation. We have seen a number of them lost their life as a result of being on the field. How about their families? How do we take care of them at the end of the day? Because there are those who also see what happens to their predecessors, and they wonder if it is necessary for them to give their all to their service to the nation. So it's important that we look at it holistically to address the matter of the welfare and also fifth columnists. If they will be able to fish out these persons, it will go a long way at addressing what we are seeing, because we've gotten reports of how they are planning to go for a mission, and then it is reported that they were attacked in the process, soldiers were killed, and then they're wondering how information got out to the enemies of the state, and then they realized that they were fifth columnists who gave out this information. How do we begin to address that is very critical.
Absolutely. The Tinubu administration has also spoken rather eloquently about, the need to invest more heavily in technology. And this is a perfect time now for us to see all those promises materialize, because so many of these hazards we face, so many of these trends of insecurity will be greatly curbed if we see more investment in technology, if we see more partnership with our big brothers out there, across the world, to come and partner with the country. Of course, terrorism has even come to be a global challenge. We're seeing West Africa also teaming up. We're seeing the world, summit after summit, talking about the common enemy, insecurity, and it's also, manifesting in various patterns, even beyond the physical dimensions that we may be dealing with. So we want to see more and more, clarity in that regard. If you look all over, and Lagos is also, a good example, saying how technology has greatly helped in the state so far to curb insecurity and the likes. And we want to see that this is replicated across all the states of the Federation.
Yeah, we want to see that. In fact, there are those who keep questioning the aspect of security votes, what most of the states do with these votes at the end of the day. How do they use that to address some of the security situation in their states? So now that you've mentioned technology, maybe some of the states need to begin to take that responsibility. Yes, the federal government may not be able to do everything. We had spoken earlier about how we want to see synergy between states and the federal government. So you know the peculiarities of your state, and you know that this money is what you can do to help your state. As a chief security officer, yes, you may not be able to handle some things because you are limited with regards to the law. So the little you can do, what are you doing with regards to that? Are you always going to wait cap in hand to go to the federal government to do one thing or the other for you? You should also take responsibility because you swore an oath to defend your people, to be there for them, to secure them and all of it. So it is high time that we all, it is said that security is everybody's business. So as a governor, you should begin to look at what you can do to address matters of insecurity in your state, what sacrifice you can make, some of these monies that you get, what are the allocations you can make for your state to better the security situation in your state moving forward. At the end of the day, posterity will be kind to you. People will look back and say that this governor did this. Kudos to him at the end of the day. So it's not always about having to wait for the federal government to do everything. Yes, we know the limitations of the law, but what can you do to improve security situation in your state is very critical.
It's also important for, like you said, security is everybody's business, and now more than ever before, we too, as individuals, also need to be more security alert. We've spoken severally over the level of trust between security agencies, between the government and the people, and whatever needs to be done to bridge that gap need to also be capitalized at this point, because after all, these are new service chiefs coming on board. They need not just the support of their immediate colleagues and agencies, but also the support of the people to help make the war a collective win. And we want to see that materialize. We've also been seeing disturbing images, disturbing manifestations of brutality on the part of our law enforcement officers. Only yesterday, there was this disturbing video that emanated from Edo State.
It actually was over the weekend.
Only yesterday we discussed it. We saw it in the news. I meant to say so. But then we've also seen the police during the past administration under the past IGP, coming down hard on erring policemen, erring police officers, and this also needs to be sustained. People, whoever falls on the wrong side of the law, be you a law enforcement officer or even a regular Nigerian, you need to be called out, and you need to be taken down, quote and unquote. You need to be called out and punished, no matter what it takes. And we don't want to see lip service anymore, but our security agencies to just be up and doing, exhibit the highest levels of professionalism and do what needs to be done.
Absolutely. And speaking to that video, the Inspector General of Police had said that they were not going to, his regime is not going to entertain any attitude that is unprofessional, especially with regards to the policemen. And seeing that video, I got a report that the policemen that were involved in that case have been summoned to Abuja to answer questions. But that would not be enough, in my opinion. Nigerians need to see that they are seen, that justice is seen to be done, because the person who that van, drove over that van is in critical condition in the hospital. How do you ensure closure, like I mentioned earlier?
How he survived is a miracle.
It is. So if we're saying that we're not going to entertain this kinds of behavior, Nigerians must see that these persons are brought to book, not just hearing about it, but they see that these persons are brought to book as much as possible, and that the process is transparent. And then Nigerians can trust the system. They can trust the force to bring persons like this to book. And so it will be important that every process that these persons will go through with regards to bringing them to book must be made available or made known to the public to follow up on, because we know how these matters have been over the years. We hear that persons are brought to book. We see some on TV, but Nigerians, we say that is not enough. It has to be sustained, like you mentioned, bringing them to book such that Nigerians can trust the system to not tolerate such behavior and can easily report anyone seen, carrying out such behavior at the end of the day. Then we can say we are building a relationship. The image of the force is being changed and people can be free to report some of these situations to the force itself.
Absolutely. And recently, we've also, or I have to admit, by the way, that we've been seeing spokespersons of law enforcement agencies, especially the police, we've been seeing them communicating, responding to issues online, and
it's not enough.
I think that also needs to be sustained. That needs to be sustained. There still remains the issue of slow response, because it's one thing for you to respond, online, but to physical threats. Now that we also need to be reassured that security agencies immediately respond, or within their levels of how will I put it now, within their immediate things. Now they can respond adequately to to security threats or to people's calls for help. Of course, there is the issue now of what do they have on ground, where is the alarm coming from, and where is the nearest police station, and how ready, how adequate are the resources around the police officer, for example, now to respond to that. So it's a wholesome issue. It's a call, absolutely, for all the reforms that can happen to make our law enforcement agencies, what we want it to be, because
make it work.
Absolutely, it will be a collective pride, not just for the officers who wear these uniforms, but even for we to look at our officers and be proud to call them as such. So we all want the best for the country, and so everyone, it cannot be said, it cannot be overemphasized that we want to see a much better, more professional law enforcement officers who will work for the common good of Nigeria. So like I said about the issue of communication, that also needs to be enhanced. We want more communication. We want better working conditions for these individuals who are working. And earlier on, we also spoke about their families too, because so many times their families are left without their breadwinners, so to speak. And speaking with them, there's the issue of even look at the barracks where they live in, look at their immediate surroundings, and they are left alone for many times. They see their breadwinners or their loved ones only very few times in a year. What conditions are they going through? I'm talking about the families that they left behind. What conditions are they going through? Can we also have better reports and more sharing news from that regard? Because after all, they are working for the country.
Absolutely, a whole lot needs to be done to addressing this matter of security personnel, and the government should look at not just their welfare has been a matter that has been put forward, and then to the matter of online, seeing the response we get from when issues are put forward online. Some Nigerians will say it's because it's online, and we know how people are on social media. When they're not getting response, they can easily speak up and throw jabs and attack these persons, and they want to respond. They wouldn't want any of those issues. We've seen reports of persons who go to the station and they say that the station's physical station now, and they say that they're making demands of them, asking them to fuel their vans, asking them, okay, make statements here and there, and they are just dragging and all of that. Can we change that? If we are addressing things swiftly online, can we be swift? Recently, there was a domestic violence case that was said to have been taken to the police station, and the way the response came, the woman was left hanging. They did not address the matter. She wanted them to quickly come and go arrest her husband, but they did not show up. They were asking questions, and before you know, they said they were coming the following day. The husband had absconded, and she was left injured and all of that. I think it's high time we begin to look at this special desk, ensuring that every resource they need, especially matters of domestic violence, armed robbery, and all of that, that every resource needed to address issues swiftly is given them. If not, yes, they may not be able to move if they do not have fuel in their vans. How do they move? So all of those issues, that's why the matter of the road to justice, a majority of persons say, is a tortuous one, is a long one when it comes to addressing issues in this part of the world, which has to also be looked into.
Over the time, many would rather talk about, people who go out to report cases. I mean, the case you just brought up, makes one recall what complainants, face. Many people, out of the few that you see going to report a crime, for example, now there are so many others who are, staying at home smarting over their injuries and just saying God will judge, because some have even attempted to go to the police station, for example, and what do they see? A secondary form of abuse, at the hands of, the people that you expect to come to your aid.
To intervene.
To intervene. And that is also a worrying pattern. But progress is being made. It may be slow, going by some indicators, but progress is gradually being made. So, of course, sustainability is the mantra for me right now. And let's also increase the tempo and what we can do to make the force, as attractive as it could be, because there's an ongoing narrative of under-policing of the country. For example, we saw a rather hilarious, ludicrous video the other day of policemen guarding, was it a cow now?
Yes, a particular man.
Right, yes. And of course, that's understandably attracted a lot of outrage as to there are Nigerians in the hinterlands and even in our immediate surroundings who cannot boast of, policemen or law enforcement agencies coming to their aid when they call on them. And we're seeing someone...
A number of personnel with just one person.
Attached to just one person. And there's an issue of, will they even want to return back to the regular work that they do as officers, or are they better off? Do they feel they are better off, working for... Perhaps, right? We've seen some...
It all boils down to their welfare.
To their welfare. We've seen some cleaning shoes, doing odd jobs, even in their uniforms, and it's really very, very embarrassing to everyone, not just the force, and that also needs to be addressed.
I mean, the outrage that followed that video, because I saw the outrage, and we saw the response coming from the spokesperson of the police force. Now, would that have happened? Are they saying that they do not know that this person has that number of their personnel in his, around him? Right. Is it possible for them to say they do not know? It's because of the outrage that followed. Now, what has happened afterwards? Do we know? Will they come back to tell Nigerians that this is what we have done? That is what I'm saying with regards to the aspect of transparency in the process is, okay, there was outrage, this is what we have done. And it must be seen that something was done. That is how you can build trust. You can't just leave things hanging like that because there was outrage. What if that video did not show up online? Would anything have been done? We do not know. So it's important that we go beyond this surface, I call it that. For me, it's on the surface that we're trying to address. Yes, you're making effort, but you must take it further such that Nigerians can trust you. The matter of trust is the elephant in the room. Address it and address it in such a way that Nigerians can help your work, make it easy for you at the end of the day, because you need the cooperation of Nigerians. How many cases have been reported? When we see such things, should we keep reporting them or posting the videos? How about those who cannot post some of these things on social media? How do you address them? It's important. So for me, that matter of having all of these persons as orderly or aides around is a sensitive one, where they have said at some point that they were going to withdraw some of these persons from the politicians or persons who are able to afford them, to ensure that we have the number of people we need on the ground. But then we know how things are in this part of this world. It's a sensitive matter. Some persons are fighting that tooth and nail. that how would they feel free to move around without these persons,
But-
seeing the security situation on the ground?
Well, it is sensitive, but then if we see how things are done, Nigeria is not the only country that has security concerns. We've seen, so many, videos, of how VVIPs, of how influential people, how they move around. How many times do we see regular law enforcement policemen, for example? How many times do we see police officers, around them? Should we have them? Yes, your life is important, and if you have the means to do what you can to ensure, but when you see that this is a common asset,
Enemy. Yeah.
yes, a common enemy, however way you want to put it, but then do you really feel you should be entitled to this? And if you must protect yourself, I'm not against. I'm not, they can even have as many as they want, but we have professional security outfits out there who are created just for that, to give private security to individuals. And
they are not confident.
Can we have them? They are armed. Can we have them? But I think it should be an ongoing conversation. Okay, yes, there may be interests that will fight it, but if the government and its people, if they put their foot down that this is what they want, of course, there's an issue of even the government themselves. Are they also willing to also give leadership? Our leaders will also give
ready to lead from the front
in that regard? But it's an ongoing conversation. We hope that we get somewhere. We hope that we face the elephants, all the elephants in the room, and so people can see that yes, our leaders, mean what they say. But it doesn't. It's really
this matter has been a conversation that has been on for years. Way before now, the matter of not having so much number of policemen or even having them guard persons, perhaps very important persons, VVIPs, like you mentioned them, or politicians. This conversation has been on. And let's have them on the ground. And if they're on the ground, everyone will feel safer. You can move around the way you want. That it is being selfish to say that, okay, you alone should have this person to yourself. Yes, we know those who can afford it, but interests over the years, the government has tried, but it seems that there are certain interests who feel that, no, we cannot go in that direction. So it is high time we begin to look ourselves in the face to tell ourselves the truth. What direction do we need to go? If we really need to address some of these things, are we willing to step on toes, ensuring that whoever's ox is God, no one cares, and we deliver for Nigerians? The Nigerian project should be everyone's interest at the end of the day. That's my point. The Nigerian project should be what one is looking out for. In fact, there are persons who have said that there are some persons who cannot return back to their constituencies because of the security situation there. What there were reports sometimes where that some state governors do not stay in their state, they stay in Abuja because of the security situation. What are they doing? Are we going to tell them, go back to your state? Let's liaise with you to address the security situation in your state. Stay there. You said you want to be the governor and you want to address the security situation. You say you are the senator for this place or the House of Representative member for this state. Are you ready? Go back to your constituency. Address the matter. Stop running away. These are the issues. We say we need to work together. Let us all work together and be sincere in we saying we want to address these matters. That's what Nigerians want.
Accountability. Nigerians surely deserve better. And you said it all. You asked for, the position of leadership. You
should be able to deliver.
That vied for it, and you got it. So, coming out, we want to see less and less. We don't want to see helpless governors. And there were, alarming instances, only recently where we saw, former governors, the then governors, coming out, with their hands like this, saying they were basically helpless. They were helpless. They had reached their limits regarding, it's not getting any better. We've done the carrot and stick. We've done this and that to end banditry, and here we are. We're still ahead. In fact, at the time there were calls that perhaps people should just arm themselves and
Yes.
defend however
yourself.
however way you want to. But just try and imagine the implications. We don't think that saw the light of day. I don't think it, because at the end of the day, how many people are even armed? Of course, there's an issue of weapons in circulation in the wrong hands, and that would have also thrown up a case of anarchy, near anarchy, and lawlessness. So we hope that the issue of security votes will be better utilized, and more accountability, more openness, over these things, and whatever needs to be done within the limitations of the law. We hope that we can also get more reforms legally to also tackle this common monster head on, and ensure that everywhere, not just the urban areas, but indeed,
everywhere.
When I think of when we hear reports of, even the reports we hear of, there's an argument, or there are sentiments that for the ones that are reported, there are several others
that are unreported.
That are not reported, because they are really hard to reach areas. And when you look at where they are to where the police or the nearest police station is, it's a distance. And when attacks come in the middle of the night, you can just imagine how they are saved, if at all.
And that's some of the routes, they are not motorable. So how do we address that aspect? At least make those routes motorable. That's why I mentioned earlier that, state governments have to look at what they can do. These places are hard places. They are not easily accessible. How do you make it accessible for security officials? If you say you want to tackle security, what can you do as a state government to addressing some of these things? Yes, we know that there are federal roads and all of that, but the one within your jurisdiction, what are you doing about it? Is very critical. So it's high time we begin to be sincere in our fight against insecurity, because whichever way we look at it, it's a common enemy. If you arm yourself today, it doesn't mean that you can do that forever. People find ways around these things. We've seen where convoys were attacked. We've seen several issues, springing up here and there. But it's important that we are sincere in our fight against insecurity, and we attack things